Hello, Lindsay. This will be some week 3 and milestone 1 feedback for you. And I'll start with 4.1, which is the discussion about the wireframes. And I'll end with the journal reflection about your client. And just to remind us that our focus in this class is on the hypothetical client. You've shown us 3 great wireframes. They are skeletal, as they should be. And I think by including the logo, you know that that is going to be a constant. So I think it's fair to use that detail on your wireframes to show us also its relative scale. I like that you've put your navigation at the top. I think this is a particularly real estate efficient solution to have the logo off to the left of the navigation scheme. And see how much, this is prime real estate on the screen here, especially this area right here. I like how the upper left, which is where the eye supposedly falls first, is the logo. And then by putting the limited menu or navigation scheme off to the right of it, then you actually conserve some space and it doesn't look crowded. A big image I think is always really appetizing, and then you've got you're starting to plan a footer which has, as you say, links to social media, location information, and you might want to repeat your sitemap down there at the bottom, at least the HTML version. So really great job. I think my preference is for this, and also maximizes images, image area. So that would be my choice. But you may have other ideas about the way that your website looks, and that's acceptable. Also, Lindsay, I wanted to thank you for this link. It's very interesting to me, and I'm going to finish it as soon as I finish some other things here. But that kind of resource is always welcome. So great job on that. Here's the big milestone, and the rubric is so binary. There's 2 categories. Do you have a properly coded sitemap? And then the other category is there appropriate file management structure? Yes. Well, here's the visual sitemap, and then here's the coded XML sitemap, which looks really good. Let's see if I can. Here's your visual sitemap. I see how you have nested all but the home page in a separate folder called Media. That, ideally that will make it easier to do global changes. You provided us with the URL for it. Here's your XML sitemap or HTML. HTML is like a subset of HTML, so you can use XML code validators on HTML just fine. Moving forward, you might want to remember that little thing. But you've got URLs, dummy though they might be at this point, for all of your child pages. You've shown me how you organize things on your GeoCities server. Good job. You've got folders for media, folders for images. And then I see how your file management structure on your desktop matches that of your GeoCities site. So this bodes well, Lindsay. You've met the 2 requirements, plus, because a visual sitemap, as important as it is for our understanding, is not part of the rubric requirements. So in some ways it's a little bit extra, but it's necessary for us to understand. Great job. Lindsay, this is what I see when I go to the URL that you gave me, so that's, great job. Now I'm using Safari for the Macintosh, and what you can't see off screen is a tab that says Develop. So I'm going to be able to look at not only your HTML code, but also take a look, get a rough idea of what you've got, publicly at least, on your server and how that's organized. And so here below is the HTML for this. Let me just go over the rubric categories for this, which is styling. And the first category of the rubric is, has style been added to the heading using the chosen client's color palette? And yes, I do. I see that you have used the red for Town Restaurant, which is one of the corporate palette colors. And I've seen successfully been able to upload it. And here is your URL. Now, you grasp that your file structure on GeoCities has to match the file structure on your desktop. I'm not sure, though, that this reflects that. I see you've got some boxes, and you have selected the corporate typeface here, Athelas, which I'm not sure. This looks like Times Roman to me. It may not be loading yet. That's one of those little things that you can work out between now and the week 6, I guess it is. Now, I wanted to point out this script that shows up, and it's put there by default by GeoCities. Don't be alarmed. It makes your page visible and searchable. So it's necessary that it be there if you're going to host off GeoCities. And this is another thing that they add down at the bottom there. So that's all part of it. Nothing really in the end is for free, right? I see that you amply commented on your code. So that's a great job with that. That was from last week, of course. This is very promising, Lindsay. On to the journal reflection. Lindsay, in your market research journal entry, I see that you've identified your client, based on the demographics in the client information. Now, I'm not sure in the information that you were given to make a website, whether that was sort of prescribed or whether you were able to change it up. But at any rate, you have identified logically, I think, the demographics associated with your client. You figured out you've asked some questions of your focus groups, and you added that you wouldn't, although double income, no kids would be maybe the target. You might include some families with kids, younger families perhaps. And so you've also identified questions to ask your client. In this situation, too, you might think of questions to ask in-house focus group, which might be, kitchen staff, wait staff, and so forth, especially if you're going to have online ordering. So think about other people that might need to be included in your focus group. You've also suggested other types of market research, including looking out at what's currently there. And you mentioned things like SurveyMonkey, American Fact Finder. There's quite a few others. There is also Nielsen, and also the U.S. Census is an important one too, where you can get local information. Great job, Lindsay, and I look forward to seeing your website develop.